The day Victoria Sterling's company went public, she announced her engagement to her assistant, Ethan Cole. And I, the husband who had quietly stood by her for 4 years, watched as Ethan walked onto the stage at the launch event. The company wouldn't be where it is today without Ethan's support, Victoria declared. Ethan took the mic. Thank you all for your faith in Sterling Innovations. From now on, Victoria and I will be leading this project together. I watched as the crowd erupted in warm congratulations for them, and the fist I had clenched in my pocket suddenly relaxed. It was finally time to let go of our 4-year relationship. 1. Back home, I made a phone call. I honestly didn't think you'd agree, Sincere. I promise you, once you're here, you'll get the best compensation package in the entire company. Mr. Peterson, I'll be over as soon as I've wrapped things up here. The moment I hung up, Victoria walked in. Who was on the phone? Just someone from the tech department, I said, fabricating an excuse. They had a few questions about the project specs. She dropped her purse on the counter. A dazzling diamond ring flashed on her hand, the one Ethan had given her at the press conference. Victoria and I had been married for 4 years, and she had never once worn the wedding band I gave her. She claimed a metal allergy prevented her from wearing jewelry, yet now she was wearing the cheap engagement ring Ethan had bought her. Why did you leave the event early? A lot of investors were asking me technical questions. Were you trying to embarrass me on purpose? You seem to be handling everything perfectly fine, I said coolly. I figured you didn't need me. At the mention of the event, a flicker of guilt crossed her face. You and Ethan announced your engagement. So what does that make me, your legal husband? I challenged, my voice cold. The company needs a massive capital injection for the IPO. Announcing an engagement creates buzz. It attracts more investors to this project. I didn't bother arguing. Investors had been lining up for a month, all trying to get a piece of the project. She was using it as an excuse because she knew it was my brainchild, the product of my sweat and blood, and she thought I wouldn't dare jeopardize it. Victoria must have thought I was still just angry. She sat on the sofa next to me, and I caught the scent of cedarwood cologne, a scent I only ever smelled on Ethan. My eyes drifted to her neck, where a faint, almost hidden mark lurked. A hickey. My gaze made her nervous. She instinctively pulled up the collar of her turtleneck sweater. Look, she said, changing the subject. These are all the proposals investors gave me tonight. Ethan is incredibly capable, so I'm putting him in charge of the project. You just need to handle the technical side. She expected me to be thrilled by the stack of proposals. If Ethan is so capable, I replied, why not just let him handle the technical side too? Her face darkened. Sincere, Vance, you need to separate business from your personal feelings. There's a limit to this childish behavior. You want Ethan to handle the tech side. Just to make things difficult for him. Sincere, when did you become so petty? She assumed I was just jealous about the press conference, throwing a tantrum like I used to. Victoria shot me a glare, then reverted to her usual commanding tone. Sincere, go run a bath for me. I'll need a massage later. It was our routine. Whenever she came home from a networking event, I would draw her a bath and massage her tense shoulders. In her eyes, I was nothing more than a high-end house husband, and 4 years of my devotion couldn't compete with an assistant she'd hired 3 months ago. I'm tired, I said, refusing for the first time. The shock on her face was palpable. If you want a bath, the bathroom is right there. Sincere, are you really going to throw a fit over something so small? Everything I'm doing is for the company, for our future. I said nothing, simply got up and walked to the bedroom. Sincere, are you even listening to me? Are you deaf? She shouted from the living room. I had already closed the door. 2. Victoria, in a huff, didn't come to our bedroom all night. The next morning, I made breakfast for 2, just like always. To my surprise, she broke her own rule and offered to drive me to work. She had never in 4 years publicly acknowledged our marriage, insisting on a strict professional boundary at the office. Even leaving our home at the same time, she never let me ride in her car. I didn't refuse. I thought her strange behavior was a reaction to my coldness last night. But 10 minutes into the drive, the car pulled over. Ethan was standing on the corner, waving. As soon as the car stopped, he opened the passenger door and slid in. "Sincere? What are you doing here?" he asked, his eyes filled with a smug, provocative glint. I glanced at him. "I ride with Vicky every day," he continued, a smirk on his face. "First time seeing you join us." So this was her daily routine, picking up Ethan. I remembered a few weeks ago, during a series of intense thunderstorms, my Uber had canceled, and I'd gone to her office to ask if she could give me a ride home. She had berated me in front of everyone, reminding me not to mix personal matters with work. "If you can't get a ride, you can walk," she'd said. Later that day, I saw Ethan get into her car. She would rather go out of her way to drive Ethan home than give her own husband a ride in a downpour. Ethan doesn't have a car, and he lives far from the office. "It's on my way," Victoria explained, though I hadn't asked. "Right," I said flatly. A manager as capable as Mr. Cole certainly deserves special treatment. Hearing this, Ethan turned to flash me a triumphant look. Vicky was going to get me a company car, but my driving skills aren't the best. "You're not upset that she drives me to and from work, are you, Sincere?" Before I could answer, Victoria cut in. "It's just a ride. He doesn't care about little things like that." I pulled my gaze from the window and met Ethan's smug stare. "Right," I said, and said nothing more. My indifference clearly annoyed Victoria. She glanced at the gleaming office tower ahead and snapped at me. "I'll make a turn at the next corner. You can get out there. It's not far from the office. You can walk the rest of the way." She was still terrified of our colleagues discovering our relationship. Even on this one day she'd given me a ride, she couldn't bear the thought of being seen with me. "We're almost there, Vicky. Just let him ride with us," Ethan chimed in, playing the magnanimous one. His words instantly changed her mind. "Fine. You can get out with us in the parking garage." With Ethan in the car, she knew no one would suspect anything. They'd just assume she and her fiancé were kind enough to give a colleague a lift. I wasn't even listening to them anymore. I just wanted to get to the office and figure out how to get HR to approve my resignation. Ethan and I got out of Victoria's car, one after the other. It was the morning rush. Several colleagues glanced our way. Their focus, however, was on Victoria and Ethan, who walked into the building holding hands. Last month, the company had brought on several interns. Only 2 would be kept on after the project. I slipped my resignation letter into the stack of intern termination notices. The HR manager, assuming I was just running an errand for the interns, signed it without a second glance. After signing, he even clapped me on the shoulder. "You and Mr. Cole, you're truly CEO Sterling's left and right arms," I just smiled. 3. As soon as I got to my desk, a message from Victoria popped up on my phone. It was a screenshot of 2 movie tickets. I knew it was her attempt at a peace offering. She knew that the future of the company's projects depended on the chip I had developed. "We haven't seen a movie together in so long." "Let's go tonight," her message read. I thought for a moment, then replied, "The tech department is clear tonight. I can go after work. I'll wait for you near the theater." This was my chance. I'd use the movie as an opportunity to talk about the divorce. After work, I saw Ethan get into Victoria's car again. A few minutes later, I got a text. Something came up at the office. "You go ahead to the theater and wait for me." I didn't wait. I went straight to a law firm and had a lawyer draft a divorce agreement. By the time I got back to the theater, the romantic movie Victoria had chosen was already halfway through. I'd never liked her taste in films, but I had always endured them to make her happy. This time, I bought a ticket to a different movie, saw it, and had dinner by myself before heading home. Later, I saw Ethan's post on social media. It was a photo taken at an upscale steakhouse, steak, red wine, and 2 hands intertwined. Even though it was just their hands, I instantly recognized Victoria's. The caption read, "A love that goes both ways is a love that's blessed. Thanks for the special gift, babe. I had just gotten home when Victoria walked in. I bought you a tie. See if you like it. It was her pattern. Every time she stood me up, she'd buy me a random gift to smooth things over, and every time I would pretend to be thrilled, acting as if I adored it and fiddling with it for ages. She never tired of this tactic. Just put it in the closet, I said. My uncharacteristic coldness annoyed her. Sincere, I know I was wrong to cancel tonight, but I went out of my way to buy you a gift. What's with this attitude? Victoria, this tie was a gift with purchase, wasn't it? Her face flushed with anger and embarrassment. Sincere, what are you trying to say? Before, I never cared about the value of her gifts. I believed that anything she gave me was a sign that she cared. A notification pinged on my phone. The lawyer had sent the draft of the divorce agreement for my review. I didn't even look up, nothing. Victoria seemed to believe that if she just got angry enough, I would eventually cave and try to appease her. But this time, even as she glared at me, I remained unmoved. After reviewing the agreement and messaging the lawyer that it was fine, I finally turned off my phone. Victoria, the tag on this tie says not for resale. Do I really need to spell it out for you? I don't want someone else's promotional freebie. Sincere, who do you think you are? You spend all day cooped up in R&D. What do you know about style? I was being nice, and now you're being picky. Fine. Don't take it if you don't want it. Whatever she was shouting behind me, I ignored it. I stood up and went to the study. Now that I had decided on a divorce, her words couldn't hurt me anymore. I stayed in the study all night, and Victoria never came to find me. 4. Victoria left for work early the next morning. I went to the law firm, picked up the divorce agreement, and brought it with me to the office. I immediately started handing off my work to the tech department team. I knew she'd left early on purpose. It was her old trick, give me the cold shoulder until I broke down and apologized. I didn't contact her all morning. At lunch, I decided to grab a quick bite in the employee cafeteria. As luck would have it, Victoria and Ethan were there too. I tried to pretend I didn't see them, but Ethan steered Victoria to the table right next to mine. You're too thin, babe. You need to eat more, he cooed, feeding her a shrimp he'd just peeled. Colleagues nearby cast envious glances. CEO Sterling and Mr. Cole are so sweet together. They're even this lovey-dovey at the office. Victoria feigned embarrassment. Ethan knows I have a sensitive stomach. He insists I eat well. When we first got married, Victoria had to constantly attend dinners and meetings to drum up business. I'd stay up late every time to make her stomach-soothing congee and hangover soup. Later, when the company took off thanks to the technology I developed, she no longer needed to go to those events. But I kept making her light, easily digestible meals after work. I ate my food in silence. My lack of reaction clearly wasn't what Ethan wanted. He turned to me with a smile. Oh, Sincere, you're here too. His comment drew everyone's attention to me. The same colleague who had just spoken piped up again, teasing me. Sincere, you're the last single guy in upper management. What kind of girlfriend are you looking for? I put down my fork and adopted a serious expression. Do you know someone you could set me up with? The colleague laughed and promised to introduce me to any eligible women she knew. Victoria's face was a mask of fury as she glared at me. I stood up to leave. That afternoon, a document needed Victoria's urgent signature. I walked to her office with the file. I knocked, but there was no response. The door was slightly ajar, so I assumed she had stepped out. I figured I could just leave the file on her desk for her to sign when she returned. I pushed the door open and stepped inside. The sight that greeted me made my blood run cold. Victoria was sitting on Ethan's lap, her skirt hiked up, her face flushed. Even though I had already decided to divorce her, the scene sent a jolt of pain through my chest. Victoria, I spat, my voice filled with disgust. You make me sick. I slammed the file onto the floor and turned to leave. Sincere, it's not what it looks like. I couldn't believe she had the audacity to say that. Not what it looks like? Then tell me, Victoria, what the hell were you doing? She scrambled to pull her skirt down. Before she could stammer out an explanation, Ethan interrupted. Sincere, who are you kidding? If you weren't so useless in bed, why do you think she'd be so into me? Ethan had been at the company for 3 months. For the past 3 months, Victoria had used every excuse in the book to avoid being intimate with me. I thought she was just stressed from work, so I didn't press the issue. It turned out my consideration had just given her cover to cheat. Victoria, I want a divorce. 5. I threw the divorce agreement I had prepared onto her desk. I had planned to talk to her about it tonight at home, but that was clearly unnecessary now. You want to divorce me? Victoria looked at me as if she'd misheard, as if she couldn't believe I would ever be the one to initiate a divorce. If you're not happy with the asset distribution, we can change it. You can have the house. I'll also give you my 5% stake in the company. All I want is $1 million. Victoria knew perfectly well that $1 million was nothing. The value I had created for the company over the years was worth countless millions more. I just wanted a quick, clean break. Sincere, on what grounds are you divorcing me? I made one little mistake and you want to throw everything away? I didn't know how she could say something so shameless, brushing off her affair as a little mistake. If you don't sign this now, I will proceed with legal action. Ethan grabbed Victoria's hand and pointed at me. Sincere, she doesn't love you. If you're going to divorce her, then stop putting on a show. He looked at me with contempt, his expression smug and superior. Then get her to sign the papers, I shot back. Seeing my resolve, Victoria immediately shook off Ethan's hand. Sincere, we're still going to be working together. We'll see each other every day. Does it really have to come to this? I paused for a second, then decided to tell her. HR has already approved my resignation. I was here today to finish the handover. We won't be working together anymore. Victoria snatched the resignation letter from my hand, glanced at it, and threw it on the floor. Sincere, I haven't approved your resignation. You are not allowed to leave when I didn't respond, she screamed at me. Sincere, are you deaf? I'm talking to you. You should take this back before I change my mind. Ethan, fearing I might waver, jumped in. Vicky, if he leaves, who do you think will hire him? He'll probably come crawling back to you in a few days. His words clearly swayed her. She glared at me, her face dark. Sincere, if you beg me, I'll shred this resignation letter. I looked at them both with cold eyes. Victoria, I am quitting this job, and I am divorcing you. Sign the papers. Soon. With that, I walked out of her office. As I stormed out, I passed a few colleagues in the hallway. Victoria, forgetting who might be watching, rushed out and grabbed my arm. Sincere, can we please not get a divorce? I yanked my arm free. Victoria, let's not discuss personal matters at the office. Weren't those your words? Seeing my unwavering determination, she reverted to her usual disdainful attitude. Sincere, Vance, you better think this through. If you leave this company, I will have you blacklisted from the entire industry. No one will hire you. I couldn't help but laugh. Do whatever you want, Victoria. Just sign the divorce agreement so we can be done with each other for good. It wasn't long before the entire company knew I had quit. Colleagues were gossiping, wondering what could have happened between me and Victoria to make me resign so abruptly. Soon enough, news of our divorce agreement spread like wildfire through the office. 6. The next day, I moved into the studio apartment I'd bought before our marriage. It was my only sanctuary, my escape from my toxic family. I once thought Victoria would give me a sense of belonging, a home. Instead, she had shattered that dream. I wasn't in a hurry to start my new job. The divorce wasn't finalized yet. I had barely started unpacking when someone knocked on the door. I thought it was building maintenance coming to set up the utilities. But when I opened the door, it was Victoria with my mother in tow. Sincere, I called you a dozen times and you didn't answer. How dare you ignore your own mother's calls too, my mother shrieked. I glanced at Victoria. She had brought her here on purpose. Come in. I stepped aside and Victoria helped my mother into the apartment. Victoria scanned the small space, her face grim. Sincere, is this what you're reduced to? Living in a tiny apartment after leaving me? She believed that happiness could only be found in her sprawling penthouse. To her, this studio was a sign of my downfall, but she would never understand that leaving that house was the best decision I had ever made. Pack your things and go back with Victoria right now, my mother commanded, using the same overbearing tone she'd used my entire life. Why would I go back? Victoria and I are getting a divorce. You think you're some 20-year-old kid who can just get divorced on a whim? Who do you think will marry you after this? Sincere, how did I raise such an ungrateful, disobedient son growing up? The one thing she said to me most was, why did I ever give birth to you? For a long time I had agonized over that question, desperate for an answer. Mom, Victoria cheated on me. Are you telling me I should just stay with her and endure it? My mother blurted out without a second thought. Victoria already knows she was wrong. Can't you give her a chance to change? Besides, everyone makes mistakes. She was only doing it for the company. The absurdity was laughable. Mom, I'm your son. You want your own son to live in misery and humiliation? Sometimes I seriously wonder if you're even my real mother. The words had barely left my mouth before she slapped me, hard. My face burned. Victoria watched with cold detachment, waiting for me to surrender. I held my burning cheek. I said it before, and I'll say it again. This divorce is happening. If you dare to divorce her, I'll disown you, my mother screamed, resorting to her favorite threat. Fine. If you're going to force me, then I'll act as if I don't have a mother. I'll send you $800 a month for living expenses. Now, please leave. You, my mother raised her hand to slap me again, but I dodged it. She was only interested in Victoria's money. Victoria gave her a generous allowance every month to fund her vanities. Victoria rushed forward and grabbed my hand. Sincere, is this because of Ethan? I won't see him anymore. I'll fire him. Please, just come home with me, okay? She still didn't get it. Even if Ethan was gone, there would be a new Ethan, a John, a Mike. Victoria, how many times do I have to tell you? I don't love you anymore. I want a divorce. I opened the door, my expression merciless. Please leave now, 7. The next day, Victoria called me unexpectedly. Sincere, you need to get to the office right now. There's a problem with the chip from R&D. Without hesitation, I refused. Victoria, I don't work there anymore. Find someone else. Sincere, you were in charge of this chip from the beginning. Only you can fix it. The urgency in her voice sounded genuine. I considered it for a moment, then agreed to go take a look. When I walked back into the office, several colleagues thought I had returned for good. When they learned I was only there to help, they all voiced their support for me, furious that Victoria would cheat on her husband of 4 years with an assistant she'd known for 3 months. I went straight to the R&D lab. Victoria's anxious face finally relaxed when she saw me. Can you fix it? The contracts with the investors are already signed. I carefully examined the chip's programming. It can be fixed. Oh, thank God, Sincere, I knew you could solve this. She was ecstatic. My face remained blank, my tone cold. Victoria, I can help you, but on one condition. What condition? Sign the divorce papers. Otherwise, I can't help you. Her eyes widened in disbelief. Sincere, do we really have to do this? I met her gaze, my resolve for the divorce perfectly clear. Victoria, the truth is you haven't loved me for a long time. What you love is the thrill of the chase. You took my love for granted, squandered it without a second thought, and then went searching for a new thrill to hurt me with. Don't deny it. You only think I'm useful to you now because you know it will be difficult for the R&D department to develop new technology without me. I never thought the day would come when I would say everything I'd been holding back for so long. There's nothing left between us but mutual suffering. Ending this relationship sooner rather than later is a release for me. Suddenly, Ethan burst in and grabbed me by the collar. Sincere, what the hell are you doing back here? You already quit." I shoved his hand off me and loosened my shirt collar. "Victoria, I don't want to be disturbed." Victoria glared at Ethan, her face livid. "Get out of here now, Vicky. He doesn't even work here anymore. Who knows if he's back to sabotage things on purpose." I almost laughed at Ethan's words. If the chip failed, Victoria's company faced bankruptcy. No matter how much she might worry about me right now, I was the only one she could trust. "Ethan, get the hell out and stop getting in the way." After I left her company that day, she offered to drive me home. "Victoria, just sign the divorce papers. Let me pick you up tomorrow morning. Your apartment is too hard to get a cab from." I refused again. That night I received the signed divorce agreement from her. I was surprised she signed it so quickly since the chip still needed a few days of work. But then I understood, between me and Ethan, she would always choose him. At this point, I no longer cared about her relationship with Ethan. I had gotten what I wanted during the few days I was at Victoria's company. Fixing the chip, she was constantly finding excuses to be around me. She even suggested I move back in. "It would be more convenient for me to drive you to and from work. Your apartment is just too far." "No thanks." I rejected her again. That's not my home anymore. The next day I was working late at the office. At noon, Victoria brought me an exquisite lunchbox. "It's all your favorite dishes. Eat it while it's hot," she urged. I glanced at it. It was from the famous, expensive restaurant downstairs. It was so popular you had to make a reservation well in advance to get a table. Victoria used to love taking Ethan there for lunch. I stared at my computer screen, my voice flat. "Next time you take Ethan out for a meal, you don't need to bring me back anything." An awkward expression flickered across her face before she quickly recovered. "I went and bought this specifically for you. I didn't see you in the cafeteria and asked the tech team, and they said you were still busy." I finally looked up from my computer and met her eyes for the first time since she'd walked in. "Then you shouldn't have bothered. You and I have no relationship anymore." A wounded look appeared on her face. "Sincere, even though we're divorced, can't we even be friends?" "No, I don't see the point." I turned back to my computer, refusing to look at her. My attitude left her in an awkward position. She wasn't used to humbling herself, especially not to me. She turned to leave, but I called her back. She thought I was having a change of heart and looked at me with anticipation. "Take your lunch with you." The single sentence froze the smile on her face. Furious, she snatched the bag and slammed the door on her way out. I knew she was trying to reconcile, but for years I had been the only one putting in any effort. She knew what I wanted, but she was never willing to give it. She was so certain I would never leave her that she still thought I was just throwing a tantrum. In a professional setting, she couldn't resort to desperate clinging, and I was never going back. Over the next few days, Victoria continued to bring me various gifts, all things I had once mentioned wanting, but she had refused to buy. Each time I sent them back, unopened. To me, they were all meaningless. On the last day of repairs, I briefed the R&D team on potential future issues. Victoria thanked me and offered to take me out to dinner. Ethan suddenly stepped forward. Who knows if he actually fixed it properly this time? What if something goes wrong? A former employee now has access to all our company secrets I had reached. My limit, but before I could say anything, Victoria spoke first. "That's enough, Ethan. The fact that Sincere came back to help me is already more than I could ask for. If you say one more word like that, you can consider yourself off this project entirely." It was the first time she had ever defended me in front of Ethan. The public reprimand left Ethan red-faced and humiliated. I was just trying to help. Sincere isn't part of the company anymore. I don't need you to remind me. I know what kind of person Sincere is better than you do. I had no interest in getting involved in their drama. I just wanted to leave. 9. A couple of days later, I started my new job. The CEO, Mr. Peterson, valued my expertise and was thrilled to have me on board. After a week of settling in, an old colleague sent me a video. He said it was going viral in all the company group chats. I hesitated, then clicked play. It was Ethan, making a public accusation against me. He claimed I had stolen confidential project files from my former company and taken them to a competitor. He painted me as an unethical monster who had violated industry standards. The new chip technology had garnered a lot of attention, and as its lead developer, the video quickly trended online. I scrolled through the comments for a minute, a mix of outrage and speculation, then found it all pointless and logged out. Without hesitation, I called the police to report the slander. My new company also issued a public statement, affirming that they were open to any investigation by the relevant authorities and that no theft of trade secrets had occurred. I spent the night gathering evidence. By the next day, Victoria's company had issued a clarification. They stated that I had followed all standard resignation procedures and that Ethan's claims of professional misconduct were false. Combined with the recent news of Victoria and Ethan's engagement, many online commenters began to speculate that this was just another publicity stunt by her company to generate buzz for the new chip. Ethan was eventually taken in by the police for questioning. That night, Victoria showed up at my apartment again. "Sincere, you left some things at the house." I took the box from her, puzzled, and opened it. I had been so careful when I packed. How could I have left anything behind? Inside was our old relationship journal. Reading it now, the entries detailing how happy we once were felt like a cruel joke. "You can get rid of it." I handed it back to her. "No, Sincere." She refused to take it. "Sincere, I know I was wrong. Please, just give me one more chance. Look, we were happy once, weren't we?" She was trying to use these memories to win me back. But these memories only reminded me of how she had taken my love for granted and carelessly hurt me. "Victoria, there's no going back for us. I don't love you anymore. No matter how many times I say it, the answer will always be the same." She stared at me in disbelief, then started screaming, "Sincere, you promised you would always be with me, that you would take care of me. We can start over. We can have a baby, okay?" Years ago, I had brought up having a child many times. She always used the excuse that the company was in a crucial growth phase and we should wait. When the company finally stabilized and I mentioned it again, she blew up at me. She accused me of having no ambition, of thinking only about having kids. I never brought it up again, afraid of making her angry. And now, after our divorce, she wanted a child. "I don't want to have a child with you now." Victoria broke down, sobbing. "Sincere, you loved me so much once. Even if I made a mistake, don't I deserve your forgiveness just one time? I know we're divorced, but I'll prove to you that you're the only one in my heart." I had no patience for her desperate attempts. "You should go. If you don't leave now, I'm calling the police." 10. After Victoria left, I blocked her on everything. My new company, seeing that my apartment was far away, arranged for me to move into a 2-bedroom corporate apartment closer to the office. I adjusted well to my new environment. Everything was a fresh start. Half a month later, I was leaving work when I saw Victoria waiting for me in the parking garage. I pretended not to see her and tried to walk around her, but she stepped in my way. "Sincere, I've been waiting for you for a long time." "What is it?" I asked, an eyebrow raised. "I've made things clear with Ethan. We will never see each other again. I fired him." I moved to open my car door, my voice dismissive. "Your business with Ethan has nothing to do with me." I pushed her hand away from blocking my path. Suddenly, Ethan appeared from out of nowhere, grabbing Victoria's arm and trying to pull her away. "Vicky, you told me in bed that you loved me most. You can't do this to me. Marry me, please." Victoria shoved him away with all her strength. "Ethan, I told you, we're not seeing each other again. Sincere divorced me because of you. I don't love you and I will not marry you. I had no desire to witness this melodrama." I started the car and drove away. In my rearview mirror, I could see them still struggling in the parking garage. After that, I heard Ethan started showing up at Victoria's company, harassing her relentlessly. No matter how much he begged and pleaded, she refused to marry him. As revenge, he leaked every illicit photo he had taken of them over their 3-month affair. Victoria's company's stock plummeted as a result of the scandal. Even though she was divorced, she gave Ethan no chance. The next time I heard Ethan's name was on the evening news. He had stabbed Victoria with a knife and had been arrested by the police. For aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, Ethan was sentenced to 10 years in prison. A year later, I married a woman I had met through a colleague. Our life together was simple and quiet, but we were happy. One evening, as we were settling down after dinner, my phone rang. The line was silent. Just as I was about to hang up, thinking it was a wrong number, a voice came through. "Is this Sincere Vance?" The voice was both strange and familiar. I recognized it immediately. It was Victoria. Victoria? I was surprised she would call me after all this time. "Please, don't hang up. I just wanted to say a few things to you before I go. Sincere, the doctors told me I have stomach cancer. It's terminal." Her voice was choked with sobs. I frowned, but my heart felt nothing. "I see. You should cooperate with your doctors and cherish the time you have left." My voice was calm, detached. "Sincere, I know I wronged you. I'm getting what I deserve now. I didn't cherish you when I had you. I exhausted your love for me, knowing exactly what you wanted but always needing to be the one in control. I regret it so much now, but I don't have much time left. I just wanted to tell you. I'm sorry, one last time. Can you forgive me?" She broke down completely, crying loudly on the other end of the line. "The past is in the past. I stopped caring about it a long time ago. If there's nothing else, please don't call again." After I hung up, my wife came out of the kitchen. "Who was that?" I smiled at her. "Just an old colleague. It was nothing." She nodded, sat down next to me on the sofa, and we started watching a movie together. Moments of happiness are often fleeting. I can't guarantee that my marriage will always be this happy, but I can make sure I live each day to the fullest. Chapter 1. The day the one that got away got married, I dressed to the nines. It was only when I arrived that I realized the groom bore a striking resemblance to me. She, in her pristine white wedding dress, looked down on me and mocked my fanciful delusions. "You don't actually think I still have feelings for you, do you? We grew up together, but if he hadn't been studying abroad back then, I wouldn't have given you a second glance." My former classmates also shot me looks of ridicule. "Not only are they in love, but he's also rich. How can you possibly compare to him?" Yes, how could I possibly compare? Perhaps with the fact that his father was on his knees last night, begging me to save his family's company. The news of Victoria Holloway's wedding hit me like a bolt from the blue. She had sent me an invitation, so despite the storm of emotions in my heart, I decided to go and see for myself. I wanted to see which man was lucky enough to be with Victoria in the end. Victoria was my high school classmate. Back then, she was the goddess in the eyes of many boys. At that time, I had come from a small town to study in the big city. Seeing my glamorous classmates, I couldn't help but feel a little insecure and nervous. Victoria was the first person to show me kindness. On the first day of school, the bag my mom had used to pack my belongings tore, and my clothes spilled all over the ground. I was surrounded by gawking students, and I squatted on the floor in humiliation, desperately trying to stuff the clothes back into my arms. That's when Victoria appeared. She was like an angel from a fairy tale, walking toward me in the sunlight and pulling me up from the ground. "Which dorm are you in? Let me help you carry your things." I had never seen such a beautiful smile. From then on, every description of a radiant smile in books brought her face to mind. She had a wonderful personality and took special care of me. It was only natural that I would fall for Victoria. What I never expected was that Victoria would fall for me too. The year we graduated from high school, we officially started dating. It shocked everyone. Even though we were in a long-distance relationship for all 4 years of college, my feelings for Victoria never wavered. Later, I stayed in that city for work, and Victoria, unable to bear the days we spent apart, broke up with me. I secretly took a bus to see her once. Her face was pale, and she was so thin she looked to be in great pain. At that moment I made a resolution. I would work hard until I could stand before Victoria Holloway with my head held high once more. I would tell her that this time, no matter where she was, I could be by her side. Unfortunately, before I could muster the courage, she was already set to become another man's wife. Standing at the entrance of the hotel, I nervously adjusted my tie. Normally, I don't care much about my appearance. The housekeeper usually prepares my clothes the day before, and I just have to put them on. But today, before leaving, I must have stood in front of the mirror and tried on 5 or 6 different suits. If I had known, I would have spent more money on clothes back then. Tugging at my cuffs, I took a deep breath. I was already 27, but whenever it came to anything related to Victoria, my hands still trembled with nervousness. If my friends saw me, they'd laugh at me for being such a hopeless romantic. I wonder if Victoria will like what I'm wearing. A staff member led me toward the wedding hall. Because of a last-minute short meeting, I wasn't early. The greeters at the door were gone, leaving only a wedding portrait of the bride and groom. Honestly, I came to Victoria's wedding today with a bit of a chip on my shoulder. I wanted to see what was so special about the groom that he could win Victoria's hand. But when I saw the wedding photo, I froze. Because the groom in the picture looked about 50% like me. Chapter 2. The young women in my company loved to read novels in their spare time. I'd picked up a few things from their conversations. Almost instantly, the phrase substitute trope popped into my head. I couldn't help but wonder if Victoria, like me, had never forgotten our relationship. Perhaps she just didn't understand how I felt, so she was too shy to reach out. And in the end, she married a man who looked like me. This budding thought quickly consumed all my reason. Even though I knew how absurd it was, a flicker of hope ignited within me. A few days ago, when I saw Victoria's message, I was overcome with despair. I clutched a box filled with all the memories of my youth and drank myself into a stupor all night. I kept telling myself to give up, that the past was the past and could never be reclaimed. But now, that tiny, unextinguished spark had flared into hope once more. I pushed open the heavy doors of the hall, and my eyes immediately found Victoria, chatting among the crowd. She was turned to the side, her high-bridged nose above ruby-red lips. Compared to the year we broke up, Victoria's face had a more mature, captivating charm, making her look even more radiant. The white wedding dress made her seem otherworldly. Just one look made my eyes sting. We hadn't seen each other in so long. I forced my legs to move, walking slowly toward Victoria. The laughing crowd fell silent as they noticed me. Victoria seemed to sense something and turned to look at me. The moment our eyes met, it was as if I saw all our beautiful moments flash before me. During our 4 years of long distance in college, I would visit Victoria's city every break. She loved to be affectionate, her favorite thing being to poke my dimples with her finger. Her laughter was so infectious, utterly adorable. In our sophomore year, I heard a guy at her university was aggressively pursuing her. Consumed by fear and worry, I couldn't sleep a wink. I took the earliest high-speed train to her school. I thought she would be angry at my unannounced arrival. But to my surprise, when Victoria saw me, her eyes lit up and she threw herself into my arms. In that moment, my heart was finally at peace. We traveled to many places together. Victoria's favorite was the ocean. She would cry silently while looking at the sea, and I would tease her for being overly sentimental and soft-hearted. I dared not forget a single one of those many memories, replaying them in my dreams. And now the person I longed for was right in front of me. How could I possibly remain calm? Vicky. I whispered her name. If I just reached out, I could pull her into my arms. Victoria studied me with those eyes, her lips moving slightly. The next second, I heard her voice. You actually came. The dream shattered in an instant. I stood frozen, feeling lost and confused. What do you mean? Sincere, you didn't think I sent you an invitation because I couldn't forget you, did you? But I should probably thank you. If it weren't for you making him jealous, we might not have gotten together." Victoria's voice was the same as I remembered, yet it sounded so foreign. Her gaze passed over me to someone behind me, and then she lifted her dress and strode over. I turned to see the man from the wedding photo take her hand and walk toward me. "First time we're meeting. I'm Ethan Shaw. Thanks for taking care of Vicky for me for 4 years, my substitute." So the substitute trope was real, except I was the substitute. Chapter 3. I finally snapped back to reality from the series of blows. My gaze, filled with shock and disbelief, fell upon Victoria once more. When I spoke again, even my voice was dry and hoarse. "So from the very first time we met, back in our first year of high school, you approached me with an ulterior motive?" Victoria's eyes were filled with contempt as she nodded nonchalantly. "Of course. Did you really think I'd help some country bumpkin out of the goodness of my heart? If you didn't look a bit like Eth, I wouldn't have even bothered with you." The whispers of the surrounding crowd grew louder. My head felt like a giant firework had just exploded inside it, and I could barely stand. All those beautiful memories I had cherished and savored, it turned out they all began with such a sordid reason. A tumor has to be removed all at once. I gritted my teeth against the pain in my heart and continued to ask, "Why? If he was the one you loved all along, why did you get together with me?" I didn't want to miss a single expression on Victoria's face, staring at her with an almost self-torturing intensity. Victoria let out an exaggerated sigh and turned to Ethan Shaw beside her. I was all too familiar with that look and expression. It was her playful pout when she pretended to be angry. It was all because Eth's parents didn't approve and sent him abroad. I was heartbroken, so I just wanted to find someone to make him jealous. Ethan pinched her nose, his tone dripping with affection. "You. Only I would spoil you like this." Victoria giggled and stuck out her tongue. When her eyes landed back on me, her girlish demeanor vanished completely. "Since you want to know, I'll let you have the whole truth. I chose that university because of a pact I made with Eth. It's just a shame he had that damn fiancée at the time. Otherwise I would have broken up with you long ago. The rumor you heard about a guy pursuing me? I said that on purpose for Eth to hear. When you came to find me, Eth was nearby. All my affection and intimacy with you were for him to see. And on your birthday before we broke up, I said I was sick. The truth is, that's when Eth confessed his feelings to me." Every word from Victoria was like a knife, stabbing me relentlessly. I felt as if my heart had stopped beating, leaving it a bloody mess. Everything was for Ethan Shaw. She had never loved me. My hand rested on a nearby table, the veins on the back of it bulging. "Victoria, what did I do wrong for you to treat me like this?" Just as Victoria was about to speak, a familiar male voice cut her off. "You didn't do anything wrong, but who can compete with childhood sweethearts? Besides, Ethan is the son of Jonathan Shaw, the Mr. Shaw. What do you have to compare?" Trevor Jones strode in from the entrance, coolly handing a red envelope, a cash gift to Victoria. "I haven't congratulated you two yet. Happy wedding." He smiled, his eyes flicking toward me as he raised his voice. "I hope you two have a long and happy life together and have children soon. Don't let certain people take advantage." The certain people he was referring to was me. I remained silent, my mind replaying his words. Jonathan Shaw, Mr. Shaw. Was that the man who knelt before me last night, begging me to help him, to save the Shaw family? Chapter 4. "Trevor, you're so late. You'll have to down a glass as punishment later." Ethan's words pulled me from my thoughts. Watching how familiar they were with each other, a bold idea formed in my mind. I looked at Trevor in disbelief. Even though I already had an answer in my heart, I couldn't stop myself from asking. "Trevor, you knew about this all along, didn't you?" Trevor was my best friend in high school. After Victoria and I broke up, I threw myself into my career, and our friendship gradually cooled. But in my heart, I had always considered him a very important friend. Trevor finally looked at me directly. He sized me up and down, then let out a sneer. Of course. If Vicky hadn't asked me to, do you think I would have been friends with you? Don't be naive, Sincere. With your background, you're not qualified to be in our social circle. I knew Trevor was wealthy, so when he first approached me in high school, I was grateful. Because of him, no one dared to bully me in high school. It was also Trevor who, when I was unsure about Victoria's feelings for me, patiently affirmed my thoughts time and time again. He was the one who told me Victoria liked me. Even my confession to Victoria after graduation had Trevor's encouragement behind it. But in the end, both my first love and my once close friend were nothing but a joke. Ethan wrapped his arm around Victoria's shoulder, looking at me with a smile. I heard from Vicky that your family isn't well off, and since you took care of her for me for so many years, I won't ask you for a wedding gift today. Trevor immediately chimed in with a cold laugh. You think too highly of him, Eth. How could he afford a gift? I bet he's making maybe a few grand a month right now. It's a question whether he can even support himself. Trevor's words drew a laugh from Victoria. An old classmate nearby spoke up hesitantly. But the suit Sincere is wearing looks pretty expensive. The man's voice was soft, but we were close enough to hear him clearly. Trevor's expression immediately soured. He snorted, crossing his arms with a look of utter disdain. Who knows if he rented it to show off? He'll probably have to leave early to return it. I always knew Trevor had a sharp tongue. In high school, because Victoria treated me differently, some guys at school didn't like me. Whenever that happened, Trevor would stand up for me. The way he talked about those guys back then was no different from how he was talking about me now. The same condescension, the same coldness and contempt. Thinking back, he probably felt miserable having to stick by my side for 3 years of high school. Trevor was about to say more, but Victoria interrupted him. She looked at me and said softly, Sincere, I know I used you, but you didn't exactly lose out, did you? Without me, you probably would have never had a girlfriend like me in your life. Such twisted and shameless words. I almost laughed out of sheer anger. Did I beg you to be with me? My tone was harsh with fury, and Victoria's face changed. She frowned and said impatiently, If you're really that upset, I'll have Eth arrange a position for you at his dad's company as compensation. Don't be ungrateful. On your own, you could never get into the Shaw Corporation in your entire life. That shaky, on the verge of collapse company? Who would want to work there? Ethan nodded solemnly, even kindly explaining to me, Sincere, you might not understand, but my father's company is one of the top in the industry. You'd better not be too greedy. Looking at Ethan's face, I finally understood the desperation Jonathan Shaw must have felt kneeling before me last night. With such a brainless son, it was no wonder the business he'd built his whole life was on the brink of ruin. I smiled and looked down to adjust my cuffs. Top in the industry? Ethan, your family's company is about to go bankrupt. Didn't you know? Chapter 5. Ethan's face turned ashen. What the hell are you talking about? It was no wonder Ethan was angry. Anyone whose family company was cursed to go bankrupt at their own wedding wouldn't be in a good mood. Unfortunately for him, I was telling the truth. I shrugged, a hint of mockery in my voice. Believe it or not, but Ethan, I have a warning for you. If the Shaw Corporation really goes bankrupt, you'll have yourself to blame. Because I wasn't going to fund Jonathan Shaw. Truth be told, last night, watching a man in his 50s kneel before me, I was somewhat moved. The Shaw Corporation was a sunset company. Even if it survived this crisis, it would never return to its former glory. This investment was undoubtedly a gamble, but I wasn't short on cash. I was moved because I thought of my own father. He was around the same age as Jonathan Shaw, and I thought, if my father ever had to beg someone so humbly, I would be devastated. So I told Jonathan Shaw I would seriously consider it. But today, looking at Ethan's smug face, I had made up my mind. I would not invest. I heard from friends in the industry that Jonathan Shaw had begged many people and all had refused him. I was his last hope. Too bad that hope was now personally extinguished by his son. Ethan glared at me, as if he wanted to eat me alive. Beside him, Trevor burst out laughing and clapped Ethan on the shoulder. "You're not actually going to believe him, are you? He's just some office drone. What would he know about this stuff? He's just trying to scare you. I've got to say, Sincere, you've learned to make threats after a few years, but who do you think you are? Let me tell you, the class divide is something you'll never overcome in your life." Trevor laughed, the disdain in his eyes for me completely undisguised. Even Victoria shook her head, looking at me with disappointment. "Sincere, you've changed." Seeing Victoria's pretentious act made my blood boil, and I snapped, "Shut the hell up. Who the hell do you think you are?" My words made Victoria's face turn pale, then red. Just as she was about to retaliate, a commotion erupted outside the hall. "Get out of my way, I'm Isabel Thorne. Who dares to stop me, the heavy?" Doors were kicked open, and a woman in a black leather jacket strode in. Her eyes locked onto Ethan, and without hesitation, she marched up and slapped him across the face. The sound was so loud it made my own cheek sting. "Ethan Shaw, you son of a bitch!" I knew this woman. She was Isabel Thorne, the only daughter of the Thorne family. Contrary to her name, Isabel was a real spitfire, fiercely passionate, and not afraid to offend anyone. It was only because of her family's immense wealth and power that she had survived this long. Ethan was caught completely off guard, and his face quickly swelled up. Victoria supported his arm, her eyes full of concern. Then she glared at Isabel. "Miss Thorne, Ethan and I are truly in love. You can't tear us apart," I spit. "On your true love, you knew he had a fiancée, and you still seduced him. What are you if not the other woman?" So she was Ethan's fiancée. In that case, Ethan was in deep trouble. I couldn't help but let out a soft chuckle, which was particularly noticeable in the silent hall. Isabel's sharp gaze immediately shot over to me. I couldn't avoid it. But soon, the anger in her eyes faded, replaced by confusion. "Sincere? What are you doing here? Don't we have an acquisition meeting this afternoon? You didn't go?" Chapter 6. Isabel Thorne's words made everyone's eyes fall on me. I guiltily rubbed my nose and nodded. Well, something came up. Trevor frowned, his gaze shifting back and forth between me and Isabel. "You two know each other?" I wanted to stop Isabel from talking, but her mouth was already firing like a machine gun, spilling everything. "What do you mean? Do we know each other? Don't you know him? Are you kidding me? Sincere's company is the dark horse that's been skyrocketing in recent years. And you're asking me if we know each other? Then again, birds of a feather flock together. It's normal for trash like you, who don't care about business at all, to not know him." Isabel sneered, her verbal assault hitting everyone present. Trevor's face darkened, while on the other side, Ethan finally recovered. His cheek was still red and swollen, the handprint now looking particularly comical. But Ethan maintained a stern face, his angry gaze fixed on Isabel. "Isabel, I've told you many times I don't like you. The engagement was forced on us by our families against my will. It wasn't my choice." Isabel scoffed and rolled her eyes. "I spit on that your dad used our engagement to leech resources from the Thorne family, and you didn't say anything then. Now you're telling me it wasn't your choice? So you get all the benefits but don't want the bride? How come you get to have it both ways? Besides, if you were really unwilling, you could have proposed to end the engagement. What's the meaning of having a secret wedding here? Trying to make a fool out of me?" I looked at Ethan in surprise. I had assumed that if he was marrying Victoria, everything must have been settled. I never imagined it was a secret wedding. "Sincere, tell me, aren't they being completely unreasonable?" Isabel suddenly called my name. I was stunned for a moment, then nodded vigorously. She acted as if she had found an ally and immediately stood by my side. Ethan looked at me, then at Isabel, and suddenly it was as if he'd figured everything out. His face was no longer dark, his eyes no longer clouded. He looked like a tree in spring, Sincere, I underestimated you. I had no idea what Ethan was talking about now and just looked at him quizzically. Fortunately, he didn't seem to expect a reply and continued on his own. You brought Isabel here, didn't you? You're both putting on this act to make us believe you've done well for yourself since graduation, all to make Vicky regret it. Too bad, Sincere. A person's nature doesn't change. No matter how well you pretend, I can still see you for what you are, a good for nothing. You will never escape your fate of being poor in this lifetime. Ethan looked at me mockingly, seemingly eager to see me crumble after my lie was exposed. But I just exchanged a look with Isabel, our eyes filled with mutual helplessness. Isabel paused for a moment before speaking slowly. Is he mentally ill? That simple question successfully made Ethan's face darken. Victoria, on the other hand, walked up to me again, her eyes filled with a sort of pity and compassion. Sincere, I know this is a huge blow for you, but you can't just give up. I never loved you. You don't have to tell such a colossal lie for my sake. Whether you're rich or poor, no matter what you become, my heart has only ever had room for Eth. As she spoke, she turned and gave Ethan a deep, loving look. If there weren't so many people around, I was afraid they would start kissing passionately right then and there. I sighed, feeling a dull throb in my temples. I had no desire to watch this farce any longer. I took out my phone. Who are you calling? Ethan asked with a frown. I waved my phone and answered with a smile, tattling to your dad. Chapter 7. Ethan looked at me as if I were an idiot, but I didn't care. Jonathan Shaw answered the phone quickly, his voice as humble as it was last night. Mr. Clark, have you made a decision? I didn't answer his question, instead asking, Mr. Shaw, do you know what day it is today? Jonathan was clearly taken aback. I continued, Today is your son's wedding day. Wedding? As I expected, Jonathan Shaw had no idea about Ethan's wedding. The Shaw family was in a precarious position right now, and offending Isabel Thorne at this juncture was not a smart move. Moreover, I hadn't seen Jonathan Shaw at all since I arrived, which meant he wasn't even here. I gave him the name of the hotel. A series of small noises came from the other end of the line, suggesting a state of chaos. After I hung up, Trevor was the first to question me. So, what did Eth's dad say to you, Mr. Clark? He dragged out the last two words with a sarcastic tone, as if mocking my overconfidence. Mr. Shaw will be here shortly. I ignored him and simply found a seat, even having the leisure to pour myself a cup of tea. Isabel, seeing there was a show to watch, sat down next to me. Ethan sneered, looking at me as if I were a tiny ant. Sincere, have you lost your mind after working for a couple of years? You think my dad will listen to you? In your dreams. Hey Eth, you've got it wrong. I bet there was no one on the other end of that call. It was all an act. I'll say this right now. If Uncle Shaw really shows up sincere, I'll get on my knees and call you Dad. They went on, making no effort to hide their disdain for me. They were completely unaware that in my eyes, they were the real clowns. All right, stop playing along with Sincere's act. Vicky, Eth, it's almost time. Let's get started. Trevor shot me one last eye roll and urged the couple to begin the ceremony. The crowd that had gathered around us gradually dispersed. I remained calmly seated, replying to messages on my phone. Isabel couldn't sit still and nudged me with her arm. Hey, what's your relationship with them? My fingers paused over the keyboard, but I didn't look up. Worse than you. I was Ethan's substitute. Holy crap, Victoria really plays for keeps, huh? Isabel's eyes widened, her mouth agape. I shrugged helplessly. She patted my shoulder in a gesture of solidarity between fellow sufferers. Soon, the lights dimmed. Victoria appeared on the aisle, a spotlight on her. Her face was as beautiful as ever, but in my eyes now, it was as ugly as a demon's. Ethan stood at the other end, looking at her with deep affection. They gazed at each other while a slideshow of their relationship played on the big screen behind them. Ironically, I had taken many of the photos of Victoria myself. Just as their hands finally clasped and the officiant was about to begin the ceremony, the doors to the hall burst open. A panting Jonathan Shaw stood at the entrance, his suit and hair a mess. His face was flushed, and he pointed at the stunned Ethan on the stage and roared, "Ethan, you damn fool, do you have any idea what you're doing? See? When it comes to problem children, you have to go to the parents." Chapter 8. Jonathan Shaw's sudden arrival brought the ceremony to a screeching halt. Ethan on the stage was clearly unprepared for this turn of events. He froze on the spot, his voice trembling. "Dad, how did you—" Jonathan rushed onto the stage and grabbed Ethan by the ear. "How did I get here, is that it? If I hadn't come, how would I have known you'd do something so idiotic? Getting married behind my back. Have you lost your damn mind, Ethan?" Although Jonathan was no longer young, his voice boomed like a bell, and his furious expression sent a chill down even my spine. But at this critical moment, Victoria just had to interfere. "Uncle, Ethan and I are truly in love. Truly in love. Don't think I don't know what you're after, just the housekeeper's daughter," going on. "About being childhood sweethearts, I spit on that I didn't expose you before out of respect for you as a girl, but it seems I underestimated you." Jonathan's words not only made Victoria's face drain of color, but also stunned everyone present. She was the daughter of the Shaw family's housekeeper in high school. Victoria's clothes and expenses were all top-notch, which led to rumors that she was the daughter of some wealthy family. Who would have thought that the person who kept calling others country bumpkins had faked her own identity? Tears welled up in Victoria's eyes, and she looked like she was about to burst into tears. Trevor couldn't stand it anymore and shot up from his seat. "Uncle Shaw, so what if she's the housekeeper's daughter?" "Vicky is the kindest girl I've ever met." Jonathan, still holding Ethan by the ear, glared at Trevor. "Is that so? If you like her so much, why don't you marry her? I'd like to see if your father wouldn't beat you to a pulp if you married Victoria." Trevor's mouth opened, but no words came out. For families like theirs, profit was the most important thing. Jonathan dragged Ethan by the ear all the way to me. He shed his previous fury and bowed slightly to me. "Mr. Clark, thank you so much for calling me. If it weren't for you, this brat would have been the death of me." The moment Jonathan spoke, Ethan's eyes filled with shock as he looked at me. Even Trevor and Victoria stared with wide eyes. I stood up and smiled. "It was nothing. I haven't asked, Mr. Clark, what brings you here?" I looked at Ethan with a smile. His face was pale, his lips trembling. My smile widened as I said to Jonathan, "Oh, I'm a high school classmate of Victoria's." Jonathan's eyes instantly lit up. "In that case, then." "But Mr. Shaw, your son seems to have a big problem with me. He even said that people like me are destined to work for you our whole lives. Oh, and he wanted to offer me a position at your company." "What job do you think would suit me, Mr. Shaw?" I interrupted Jonathan, my tone teasing, but my eyes were ice cold. The smile on Jonathan's face instantly froze. But Ethan, still oblivious to the change, continued to shout, "What's with the sarcastic tone, sincere? It's your own fault for not being clear from the start. You can't blame me for misunderstanding besides, so what if you have a company now? How could it possibly compare to our family's company? Shut up." Jonathan's face was terrifyingly grim. He didn't hesitate to turn and slap Ethan across the face. As if that wasn't enough, he kicked Ethan to the ground. You prodigal son, Mr. Clark, please don't listen to his nonsense. Please reconsider the investment." Chapter 9. Beads of sweat formed on Jonathan Shaw's forehead from the sheer panic. Meanwhile, Ethan lay on the ground like a stray dog, his face a mask of disbelief. "Dad, why did you hit me? What did I say that was wrong? You shut your mouth every day. It's Victoria this, Victoria that, or just eating and drinking and having fun. You don't ask about the company at all. What do you know? Now you've offended the Thorne family, and you've offended Mr. Clark. You're trying to kill me." As Jonathan spoke, he started coughing, his face flushed and his eyes bloodshot. He walked toward me, trembling, his voice filled with pleading. Mr. Clark, I'm begging you. I built the Shaw Corporation with my own 2 hands. I can't bear to watch it just disappear like this." I looked at Jonathan Shaw, my heart filled with a mix of emotions. Ethan was undoubtedly a scumbag, but Jonathan's desperate state was truly pitiful. In the end, I could only sigh. "I can invest, but on one condition: you are not to give Ethan another cent. From this day forward, the Shaw Corporation has nothing to do with him." This was essentially asking Jonathan to disown Ethan. The budding smile on Jonathan's face froze instantly. Ethan had just managed to get up from the floor with Victoria's help when he heard my words. He sneered, completely unconcerned. "Sincere, what are you talking about? There's no way my dad would—" "Okay." Jonathan's voice was soft, but incredibly firm. It was as if Ethan's throat had been squeezed shut. He couldn't utter another word. He looked at Jonathan in shock and pushed Victoria away. "Dad, what are you saying? I'm your biological son, Ethan. Dad has no choice. You're a grown man now, with hands and feet. You won't starve." Jonathan looked at him with reluctance in his eyes, but he didn't change his decision. It was only then that Ethan realized he had lost his greatest support. His legs went weak and he collapsed to the floor. His eyes were vacant, as if all his support had been suddenly ripped away. I ignored Ethan, my gaze fixed on the equally pale Trevor. "Trevor, do you remember what you said earlier?" Trevor looked at me in disbelief. "Sincere, even if you're rich now, you can't humiliate me like this. Humiliate you? Weren't those your own words? Of course, if you're unwilling, that's fine. I imagine Mr. Jones has so many sons, he wouldn't mind losing 1 or 2. Mr. Jones was notoriously promiscuous in their circle, with countless illegitimate children. If he found out Trevor had offended me, he would likely disown him without a second thought." Despair filled Trevor's eyes, but he knew I was telling the truth. Finally, he walked over to me. Then he slowly knelt. "Dad, Daddy, good boy." I saw tears of humiliation fall from Trevor's eyes and splash onto the floor. "But so what? If you bully others, you should be prepared to be bullied in return." I glanced around one last time, let out a cold laugh, and turned to leave. But I felt someone tug at the corner of my jacket. I looked back. It was Victoria. She looked at me with a complicated expression, but I just snatched my clothes from her grasp and walked away without looking back. The one that got away. She was nothing more than an old, stale crumb. Chapter 10. With my investment, the Shaw Corporation finally returned to its former glory. Ethan was kicked out by Jonathan. I heard he tried to beg his father for forgiveness several times, but was thrown out by security each time. For some reason, Isabel Thorne started hanging around me, claiming that the events of the wedding day had forged a revolutionary friendship between us. She would periodically share the latest gossip about Ethan and the others. After being kicked out, Ethan was despondent for a while, but soon Victoria became pregnant. Perhaps a sense of manly responsibility suddenly kicked in, and he started looking for a job. But his spoiled rich kid attitude and non-existent resume led to constant rejection. He eventually became a delivery driver. I heard he and Victoria fought constantly, a far cry from the golden couple they once were. As for Trevor, although I didn't go out of my way to cause him trouble, word of what happened at the wedding still reached his father's ears. Trevor was packed up and put on a plane overnight. They said he was going to Africa for field research, which was basically a form of exile. I was busy managing my company and didn't care much about their lives. But one day, I witnessed quite a scene on the street. It seemed a couple was arguing publicly. The man, a delivery driver, had caught his wife cheating and had grabbed a nearby brick to attack her. Stuck in traffic, I idly rolled down my window to watch the commotion. Without any warning, my eyes met Ethan's as he was in the middle of the assault. Victoria was lying on the ground, blood pooling beneath her, her condition unknown. Ethan was taken away by the police. Isabel later told me that Victoria, tired of their poor life, had found a new sugar daddy. The baby in her belly wasn't even Ethan's. But now the baby was gone. Victoria was paralyzed from the waist down, and her new benefactor had abandoned her. And Ethan went to prison. Isabel asked me what I thought about it all. I didn't say a word, just tapped on the laptop in front of her. Your father said I need to make sure you finish this proposal today. Get to it. Arg. You're a demon. What was there to think? They were just a bunch of useless drains on society.